There's a reason it still feels out of reach. Even though you've visualized, you've journaled, you've whispered your desires to the universe under moonlight and cried them into pillows in the dark. Even though you know what you want, the relationship, the abundance, the freedom, the purpose, it keeps floating just beyond the fingertips of your now. And I know the ache of that. The quiet, exhausting question, what am I missing? What else do I need to do? But what if it's not about what you're not doing, but about what you're still holding? We don't realize it, but most of us are clenching the very energy that blocks what we're trying to call in, like trying to catch a butterfly by grabbing the air. The tighter the grip, the more it slips. This is the paradox no one tells us. What we're trying to control is what we stop allowing. Control isn't clarity. It's contraction. It signals to life, I don't trust yet. I don't feel safe yet. I'm not aligned yet. And so life responds accordingly, not as punishment, but as reflection, not as a no, but as a mirror. Because this field we live inside, this quantum fabric of possibility, doesn't speak in effort. It responds in frequency. It doesn't hear your want. It reflects your wavelength. And that frequency is shaped not by your vision board or your affirmations, but by your nervous system, by your breath, by your moment-to-moment embodiment of either fear or flow. Let me ask you this. Have you ever felt that tight, buzzy anticipation when you're waiting for a message from someone you care about? That feeling in your chest like everything's suspended, like your whole day is on pause until you know? That's not presence, that's interference, that's an incoherent field. And the same thing happens when you wait for signs, obsess over timelines, or try to manifest through mental micromanagement. You split your energy, you signal lack, you project doubt, you try to command life with clenched teeth instead of co-create with an open heart. But alignment doesn't come through tension, it comes through truth, through the quiet, open readiness of someone who no longer needs to chase the outcome because they've become the frequency of it. Because they are the version of themselves who already lives it, breathes it, walks with it, not with effort, with essence. The blockage isn't that you don't believe it's possible. The blockage is that you're still trying to force the path, still trying to make it happen through willpower instead of attunement, still waiting for external confirmation instead of becoming internal coherence. And this is where the shift begins. When you stop seeing your dream life as something out there to get to and start seeing it as something already here, waiting to match you the moment your signal stabilizes, the moment your body says yes, your breath softens, and your identity becomes congruent with the life you're calling in. Because you don't manifest from the mind. You manifest from the moment your being aligns, when your energy becomes clear enough to no longer contradict your desires with your doubts, when your nervous system stops bracing, when your presence becomes safe enough to receive. It's not more action, it's deeper allowing. It's not about how much you want it, it's about how fully you can hold it, without flinching, without self-abandoning, without pushing it away with thoughts of unworthiness or desperation masked as ambition. It's subtle, it's energetic, and it changes everything. I used to think that if I just tried harder, visualized more vividly, stayed positive every second, that life would finally reward me, that somehow my effort would tip the scales. But that was the illusion. Because trying harder is often the most sophisticated form of resistance. It means I still believe the life I want is separate from me, that I need to chase it, earn it, deserve it, and that belief is the block. It's like standing outside a locked door begging to be let in, when the key was never in the lock. It was in your pocket all along. But when you're in that loop of trying, fixing, pushing, you don't feel powerful. You feel small, separated, unworthy. You feel like the universe is withholding something, when in truth it's simply responding to the frequency you're holding. Because every time you reach from scarcity, you reinforce the timeline where it's still missing. Every time you grip in fear, you short-circuit the field. Every time you project your worth into the future. When I get the job, when I find the relationship, when the money comes, you delay the now that creates it. You manifest not from timeline chasing, but from timeline collapse. And timelines collapse when you embody coherence, when the you who lives that dream life is no longer a someday fantasy, but a now expression. When you stop broadcasting lack and start becoming the signal of wholeness, the signal of trust, the signal of, I'm already the version of me who lives it. That's the true quantum leap, not a flash of magic, a shift in identity. And that shift happens in the smallest, most tender places, in the moment you breathe a little deeper instead of checking your phone, in the moment you move your body like someone who's already free. In the pause between thoughts when you remember, I don't have to fix anything right now. I just have to feel the version of me who already knows. Because the field doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your resonance, to the safety you create in your own nervous system, to the honesty with which you meet yourself. So if you're still waiting, still wondering why it hasn't clicked yet, ask yourself, where am I trying to perform my alignment instead of live it? Where am I trying to manage reality instead of magnetize it? Because you can't fake coherence. You either are the version of you who trusts, or you're still rehearsing her. And the moment you stop rehearsing, when you drop the mental script, the energetic tension, the pressure to prove, you create space. Space for your frequency to rise. Space for the field to organize. Space for the dream to find you, not because you forced it, but because you matched it. You become receptive, and reception is a posture of power. It's the quiet power of knowing you don't need to chase what's already yours, of relaxing your grip until the signal gets clear enough for the quantum to respond, not with control, but with coherence, not with striving, but with surrender. And maybe that's the hardest part, the softest part. Letting go of the effort, the plan, the protection strategies that once kept you safe, Ante, but now keep you stuck. Letting go, not into loss, but into resonance, into the part of you that never needed to chase anything at all. Just remember, the version of you who lives the dream is already here. You're not becoming her, you're remembering her. So let's go deeper, because I know you've heard "let go" before. I know you've tried. But here's the truth. Letting go is not something the mind can do. It's something the body must allow. And most people try to release with their thoughts, while their nervous system is still in lockdown, braced for impact, tangled in old trauma loops that whisper, it's not safe to receive yet. And that's why it doesn't land. Because until your body believes it's safe to have what you want, it will block it. It will filter every opportunity through the lens of past pain. It will tighten, hesitate, sabotage, shrink. This is not your fault. It's your system trying to protect you, trying to prevent disappointment, heartbreak, collapse. But protection is not the same as presence. And until you teach your body a new signal, not with words, but with breath, with softness, with self-honoring stillness, you'll keep trying to manifest with a fractured frequency. You can't outrun your own field. You can only come home to it. That's the real work, not controlling reality, but creating coherence within, so that your signal stabilizes, so that your heart and mind speak the same language, so that your timeline has no choice but to rearrange itself around the new, integrated you. And it happens in those quiet moments when no one is watching. When you close your eyes and ask, what does safety feel like in my body? When you put a hand on your chest and whisper, it's okay to receive now. When you stop running from silence and start letting it hold you. Because silence isn't emptiness. It's the fertile field of frequency. And when you enter it with embodied trust, things begin to reorganize. You start feeling little flickers of alignment. A message arrives at the perfect time. A stranger says exactly what you needed to hear. A path opens you hadn't even considered. Not because you forced it, but because you became available to it. This is the quantum unfolding. And it's always attuned to the frequency of your now. That's why trying to skip the emotional work doesn't work. You can't override grief with gratitude. You can't suppress fear with affirmations. The field doesn't respond to your performance. It responds to your purity, the depth of your coherence, the honesty of your signal. And sometimes, coherence means meeting your inner chaos with compassion. Not fixing it, but witnessing it, letting it move, letting it speak. Because integration doesn't happen in the mind. It happens in the body's willingness to feel without judgment until safety replaces suppression. Only then does your frequency stabilize. Only then does the version of you who's been waiting in the wings finally step forward. Not as an idea, but as an embodiment. Not as something you think about, but as someone you become. And when you do, life moves. Reality bends. Not to reward your effort, but to reflect your essence. So pause for a moment right now. Inhale. Let the breath soften your belly. Exhale. Feel the ground beneath you. This is where alignment lives. Not in the future, not in the fantasy, but in the frequency of this very breath. This is where your dream life meets you. Not with noise, with knowing. And that knowing, it doesn't scream. It doesn't hustle. It doesn't need proof. It lives in the quietest part of you. The part that already knows who you are, beneath the noise. The part that remembers, you didn't come here to chase your dream life. You came here to become it. to let it emerge from within you like a melody already written in your cells, waiting for you to stop trying to conduct the orchestra and simply listen. But most of us are afraid to listen, because when we slow down enough to hear our own frequency, we also hear the interference, the doubts, the shame, the unworthiness, the echoes of voices that told us we had to be more, do more, prove more. And so we speed up again, distract, control, strive. We think if we can just stay busy enough, aligned enough, positive enough, we won't have to feel the gap, the ache, the dissonance between who we are and who we're pretending to be. But manifestation doesn't flow through pretending. It flows through presence, and presence means letting the illusion dissolve. It means noticing, where am I still performing worth? Where am I still trying to be chosen instead of choosing myself? It means admitting that sometimes control feels safer than receiving, because at least control is familiar. At least control doesn't ask us to risk being vulnerable with life, but receiving, that's surrender, that's trust. That's allowing yourself to be met in your raw, real, unpolished truth, and still saying yes, still opening, still staying soft. That's the edge most people won't cross, but you're different. You're here because something deeper in you is ready, not just ready to receive the dream, but to become the frequency that naturally holds it, to live in the body of the version of you who no longer doubts her alignment, who doesn't need the confirmation of results to validate her path, who simply is the vibration of what she desires, not someday, but now, because everything in your reality is responding to who you are now, not who you'll be next week, not who you'll be when it arrives, but who you're being in this breath, this moment. And so if you want to change your timeline, change your now, not with pressure, with presence, not by fixing, by feeling, not by becoming someone else, but by becoming fully yourself. Because when you stop trying to manifest from the outside in and start creating from the inside out, everything shifts. You stop outsourcing your power to signs, timelines, outcomes. You reclaim it in the way you walk, speak, breathe, choose. You become the signal. And when you are the signal, the field reorganizes around you, not slowly, not incrementally, but quantumly, because there's nothing left to contradict the desire. No more static, no more misalignment, just pure resonance. You don't have to prove anything to life. You only have to remember who you are in it. And when you do, everything you've been waiting for stops waiting too, because it was never out there. It was always within reach, just waiting for your frequency to catch up to your truth. There's something sacred that happens when you stop reaching, when you stop grasping at timelines like lifeboats and begin to realize you were never lost at sea. You were always the ocean. Your depth was never missing. It was just hidden beneath waves of effort and noise and the need to be certain. Certainty is seductive, but it's not the same as alignment. Certainty says, I need to know before I trust. Alignment whispers, I trust even without knowing. And that's where the shift begins, because manifestation doesn't come from having it all figured out. It comes from the nervous system that no longer panics when things aren't clear, from the heart that stays open even when the how is hidden, from the body that no longer contracts in the unknown. The quantum doesn't need your strategy, it needs your signal. And that signal gets clearest when you drop into the version of you who already lives the life you're calling in, not as fantasy, but as felt reality, as a vibration you practice, not in your head, but in your cells. So let's feel her now, the you who wakes up in peace, not panic, who doesn't check her phone to feel worthy, who walks slower, speaks softer, chooses from fullness instead of fear, who doesn't need to convince the universe because she's already tuned to its rhythm. She's not worried if it's working. She knows it is, because her signal is stable, not because she never doubts, but because she's no longer ruled by doubt. She moves with it, dances with it, breathes through it, until doubt dissolves into devotion. That's embodiment. And embodiment is the bridge. It's how you collapse the distance between desire and reality, by collapsing the distance between who you think you need to be and who you already are. It's how you stop trying to manifest and start becoming the manifestation, because the field doesn't respond to effort, it responds to energy, and your energy becomes magnetic when it's clean, when it's not scrambled by second-guessing, overthinking, or self-abandonment. When you can sit in your wholeness without needing the world to mirror it back immediately. That's the irony. The less you need proof, the faster it arrives, because the field is waiting for you to stop hesitating, to stop outsourcing your knowing, to stop making your frequency conditional on what you can see. Manifestation isn't about convincing the universe. It's about embodying a version of you that doesn't need convincing. So ask yourself, what would I do if I already trusted it was done? How would I breathe, walk, move? How would I speak to myself? What would I no longer tolerate? What would I no longer chase? Because that's the energy that collapses timelines. That's the energy that unlocks flow. Not more doing, more remembering, not more control, more coherence, not more pressure, more presence. And when that presence becomes your baseline, when you stop leaking energy into doubt, delay, and dependency, you create a clear, stable, undeniable signal. And that signal doesn't beg, it doesn't plead, it doesn't wait. It attracts, it aligns, it arrives. And here's what's wild. When it arrives, it doesn't even feel like a shock. It feels natural, familiar, almost quiet. Because by the time it shows up, you've already become the version of you who lives with it. You've already embodied the timeline. You've already made peace with the process. And so, it slips in like a long-lost part of you returning home. There's no fireworks, just resonance. And yet before that alignment clicks, we often resist this simplicity. We keep looking for the missing piece, the secret formula, the perfect ritual. But in truth, the missing piece isn't a method. It's a moment, the one where you finally stop performing and start feeling, where you stop controlling and start calibrating, where you stop bracing for impact and start breathing into impact. Because when you regulate your nervous system, you regulate your reality. That's the portal no one talks about. Not a vision board, but a vagus nerve. Not a timeline map, but a breath that signals to your body, we are safe now. We are allowed to expand now. We are not chasing anymore. You become the open circuit through which reality flows freely. You stop blocking it with fear, fantasy, and force, and instead, you become the embodiment of the yes to joy, the yes to rest, the yes to being seen even before you're ready, the yes to letting life surprise you, not just in the big things, but in the tiny, holy, ordinary moments that stretch your heart without warning. Like the way the air feels different when you're fully present, or the way a song finds you at the exact moment your spirit needed it, or the quiet realization that you no longer crave validation for things that used to define your worth. That's the new timeline talking. That's the coherence stabilizing. And from that place, decisions become clearer, boundaries become easier, synchronicities become louder, because you're no longer battling the flow, you are the flow. You're no longer waiting for life to confirm your alignment. You walk as the confirmation, you breathe as the bridge, and people start to notice, not because you're louder, but because your presence is unmistakable, because your energy no longer wavers with every external wobble, because there's a grounded softness in you that can only come from deep inner safety, the kind that says, I no longer chase what I already am. That's the dream life arriving. Not always with trumpets and fireworks, but often with a soft, sacred click, the moment when who you are and what you want finally stop fighting each other, the moment when the inner signal becomes strong enough, coherent enough, honest enough, to be mirrored by the outer world without resistance. And then you realize the dream life wasn't a destination. It was a frequency you were always capable of holding. You just had to stop gripping long enough to let it land. And when it lands, something else softens. The need to explain yourself, the urge to rush, the anxious scan for signs, all of it dissolves. Because you've remembered what the mind forgot and what the body always knew. You are not separate from the life you seek. You are not waiting for it, you are revealing it. You're no longer trapped in the old loop of, once I have it, I'll feel free. You've inverted the formula. Now it's, because I feel free, I can hold it. Because I feel safe, it can stay. Because I feel worthy, it doesn't slip through my fingers. And that's when the quantum field gets loud. That's when acceleration begins. Not because you did more, but because you interfered less. Not because you mastered the code, but because you became the code. And it's in this frequency where life becomes deeply responsive. You think of someone and they call. You release a grip and money flows in. You stop obsessing over how a new door appears, one you didn't even know existed. Because now your field isn't just aligned, it's magnetic. You're not transmitting confusion anymore. You're transmitting clarity. You're not transmitting pressure. You're transmitting peace. And peace is a powerful frequency because it tells life, I'm no longer at war with myself. And when you're no longer at war within, life doesn't need to mirror conflict without. It begins to mirror your coherence. And that's how you collapse the delay. Not by doing more, manifesting harder, or chasing signs, but by anchoring so deeply into your now that your signal becomes undeniable. The timeline can't resist a coherent field. The universe doesn't delay what you're ready to hold. It simply waits for the signal to stabilize, and when it does, there is no resistance. There is no lag. There's only alignment. So the real question is not, how do I make it happen? The real question is, can I stay open long enough for it to meet me? Can I stay soft when the doubt rises? Can I stay rooted when the mind wants to run? Can I trust the intelligence of my frequency more than the story of my fear? Because if you can, you'll feel it. That click, that shift, that quiet, deep knowing that the life you've been trying to reach is not far. It's not outside. It's not coming someday. It's here. And it's not asking for more proof. It's asking for your presence. It's asking for your embodiment. It's asking for the real, unfiltered, unmasked you. Because that version, the one who no longer waits, no longer begs, no longer distorts her light to fit the world's timing, she is the one who manifests without resistance. She is the one the quantum responds to. And she's not far away. She's just on the other side of surrender. And now, take a breath. Feel that version of you. The one who isn't waiting anymore. The one who walks through her day not as someone hoping for alignment, but as alignment itself. The one who doesn't grip, doesn't chase, doesn't over-explain. She simply is, rooted, receptive, real. She is not a fantasy. She is a frequency. And every time you pause to breathe, every time you feel instead of force, every time you return to presence instead of panic, you are choosing her. You are practicing the embodiment of what used to feel far away. And each of those micro-choices, those almost invisible energetic shifts, they are sacred. They are what quantum leaps are made of. Not big dramatic moves, but small, coherent signals, sent again and again until the field reorganizes in your favor, because it can't not respond to that much truth, that much coherence, that much unwavering trust in your own becoming. And maybe for the first time, you don't need the outcome to feel safe. You feel safe because you're no longer betraying your own timing. You're no longer abandoning your body to chase a future you haven't emotionally calibrated for. You're no longer asking life to give you something you're afraid to hold. You are holding it now, in your breath, in your nervous system, in your choices, in your vibration. And the field feels that. It hears the way you stopped begging and started becoming. It registers the absence of urgency, the increase in wholeness, the quiet authority that comes not from knowing all the answers, but from no longer needing them. Because the dream life isn't made in the mind. It's made in the moment you decide to embody the version of you who no longer doubts her timeline, who no longer splinters her energy chasing certainty, who no longer uses effort as a substitute for essence. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you are, not with pressure, with presence, not by managing, by magnetizing, not through control, through coherence. And now, as you sit here in the resonance of this truth, feeling the soft echoes of your own power returning, ask yourself, am I ready to stop searching? Am I ready to become the answer I've been looking for? Because once you do, everything responds, not because you forced it, but because you finally let it flow.